Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessing to all of you. Thank you for coming, and also thank you for all the candidates. This is the first time that a Mayoral debate coming to an Islamic center here in Shelby County. So thank you for coming, guys. Please, anybody don't have a seat, there's a seat there if y'all want to grab a seat. But inshallah, we're going to start. Thank you for all the sponsors. AMAC, yes, Yemeni American Association, Masjid al-Nur, Muslim Society of Memphis, Masjid al-Taqwa, and also the MIC on this facility of Cordova. Thank you for coming. Jazakum Allah khair. Sheikh Muhammad, please come to the stage.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا قالت أنى يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أك بغيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين ولنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان أمرا مقضيا فحملته فانتبذت به مكانا قصيا فأجاءها المخاض إلى جذع النخلة قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا فناداها من تحتها ألا تحزني قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا وهزي إليك بجذع النخلة تساقط عليك رطبا جنيا فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فإما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا فأتت به قومها تحمله قالوا يا مريم لقد جئت شيئا فريا يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغيا فأشارت إليه قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا وبرا بوالدتي ولم يجعلني جبارا شقيا والسلام علي يوم ولدت ويوم أموت ويوم أبعث حيا. صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May God's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all. My name is Sabina Mohideen. I am the Executive Director of the American Muslim Advisory Council. We are a nonprofit that serves the Muslims across the state of Tennessee. We were formed after there was an anti-Sharia bill in the Tennessee State Legislature in 2011. Through that experience, we understood that we needed an organization that would stand up for the rights of Muslims in Tennessee and to fight Islamophobia. But our mission has evolved. We understood that really to fight for our rights, we had to expand what our mission was about. And one of our core missions is getting our community civically engaged. We understand that by paying attention to what's going on, whether it's local politics, or it's state politics, or national politics, we can make a difference in what is happening. By voting and being engaged, we can make a difference. We can have our issues in the forefront and create a better society for everyone. And so that is one of our core missions. Some of the other things we do is we work on building community. And what I mean by building community, we work with masajid across the state. We work with other nonprofits. We do cultural competency training so people understand our community, so organizations, government entities can better serve Muslims. We work with Muslim community to educate them on where they can get resources so they can thrive. And then we work with media relations, so making sure that our narratives are told by ourselves. And so these are kind of the core principles, but we're always working to empower our community, fight Islamophobia wherever we find it, and create a Tennessee that is truly welcoming to everyone. So thank you all again for being here. So today's forum is part of our Get Out the Muslim Vote campaign that we've had statewide. So we've done over 12 forums in the past 5 years in Tennessee, bringing mayoral candidates together, senators, gubernatorial candidates and so forth together to meet with the Muslim community. So as you know, on October 5th, Memphis, the city of Memphis is electing a new mayor. And there's also other elections, there's city council elections. And so when you registered on the registration table, there was kind of like a cheat sheet of what will be on your ballot this October and the names of the candidates for the different positions. So there's the mayoral race, but council members in individual districts and in the super districts. And if you don't know your council district, there's a QR code that you can go put in your address and you can get your council district. And also on the bottom, there's a QR code to AMAC's website where we have all information related to voting on that website, related to all the elections across the state. So one thing is to remember, Election Day, October 5th. Early voting is September 15th to September 30th. And for the mayoral race, it is whoever wins the majority of the votes, has the highest vote count, wins the race. And so, but for the individual council district, the candidate has to win at least 50% of the vote plus one. So those council districts might go into runoffs, but the mayoral race, this is it. So this is very important. We know who the candidates are and what do they stand for and build these relationships. So I want to thank all our candidates here today, Mr. Paul Young, Judge Joe Brown, Representative Karen Camper, Mr. James Gibson, Michelle McKissick, and Sheriff Floyd Boner. So with that, and I wanted to just let the candidates know that our community across the state is well over 75,000 Muslims. It's hard to, really count our communities because of the way census data is gathered. In the Memphis regional region in the Mid-South, we estimate there are over 30,000 Muslims who live. And even if they don't live in Memphis, many of them work in Memphis. So we are very much invested in what happens in Memphis. And you will see by the questions that we are concerned about a lot of different issues, from education to safety to environment to diversity and inclusion and so forth. So a little bit on the rules for today's forum. So the first question will be an introduction question, and you'll have 90 seconds to answer. And in front of me, sitting here, wave your hand, is Lamise Hassan, and she'll be the timekeeper, and she'll give you a 30-second warning, and then a 15-second warning, and then a stop. So the first question is 90 seconds, but the next 7 questions are 1 minute each. And again, she'll give you a 30-second, 15-second, and stop notice. And the closing statement is 30 seconds. So the community questions, we will have members of the community from the floor ask those questions. So is everyone ready? Okay, thank you. So the first question, and we will start to my right over here. The first question is, please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for mayor.
Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Floyd Bonner, and I'm running for mayor because I think if all of us talk across our communities, in all of our various communities, the number one issue that we know of is crime. I'm here as a candidate with 42 years experience in crime. I've been your sheriff for the last 5 years. I operate a budget of $190 million. Have close to 2,000 employees. As we move across this election, we want to keep everyone safe. We want to work, safety will be my number one priority. As I say in my slogan, is a safe community is a prosperous community. And many of you are business owners, and that safety is your number one concern, not only for your business, but for your community as well. We've seen so many things that have gone on across our community and across our state, but also rehabilitation, intervention and prevention with our juveniles, our infrastructure, our our infrastructure. And so I'm running for mayor because, I believe that a safe city is a prosperous city, and I want to be your next mayor here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Michelle McKissick. I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm from Memphis, born and raised, and I'm a mom of 4 children ranging in age from 12 years old to 25 years old, and I've been married to my husband for 29 years. And that's part of my why I'm running for mayor. It's because I care about family, all families in Memphis. Something else you may not know about me is that I've been serving on the Memphis-Shelby County Schools board since 2018. That's when I was first elected, beat an 8-year incumbent, was reelected last year. And I served at the height of the pandemic. And that was something that was extremely challenging, dealing with 110,000 students, 14,000 employees, and with a budget of $2 billion. There was a lot of responsibility to make sure that we were taking care of all of our students and the families that were connected with them. So when I was doing that, I realized there was a disconnect between the city of Memphis and our school district, which is the bedrock of all of our community. You want to talk about safety? The city of Memphis has got to get back into the business of caring about its young people, stopping crime before it starts, investing in young people on the front end instead of focusing on crime and putting people in jail on the back end. That's a part of what we have to do, but we need to do so much more in terms of tackling the problem before it gets started. So I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote, because Memphis is an amazing city, but it's time for a change. It's time for fresh perspective to see how we move our city forward together. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Young, and I am running for your mayor because I believe in Memphis. I'm a born and raised Memphian. I grew up in the Oak Haven area, graduated from East High School. I got a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Tennessee, and then I moved back and had this spiritual moment when my mom was preaching a sermon around the purpose-driven life. And in her sermon, what she said changed my life. She said that God's purpose for your life will never be about you. God's purpose for your life will always be about someone else. And so I took that and applied that to my career. I went and got a master's in city and regional planning, and I dedicated my life to working towards revitalizing neighborhoods and communities throughout this city. And that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years. Currently, I serve as the president of Downtown Memphis Commission. Previously, I was the director of housing and community development. And for this city, I feel like this is the time for us to finally get over the hump. For many, many years, Memphis has been the city that is almost there. It's time for us to get over the hump, and we're going to do it with vision. We're going to restore safety in our communities. We're going to clean up our neighborhoods. We're going to invest in our youth, create jobs, and we're going to invest in arts and culture and make sure that Memphis is a place for everyone, where everyone feels welcome and has the ability to thrive. We're going to create that future together, and I want to do it as your mayor. Thank you.
Good evening. Wow. It's on now. Good evening. I'm J.W. Gibson. I'm a native Memphian, born in a humble beginning of Dixie Homes housing projects, raised in South Memphis. I'm a veteran of 4 years in the Navy. I'm a business owner, similar to a lot of you. I actually have started 4 different businesses, all from scratch. And as you business owners know, starting one business from scratch is not an easy endeavor. Here we sit today, 33 years later. 3 of those businesses are still operating. One of them got kind of shut down because of petty politics, but 3 are still operating and doing extremely well. I am a philanthropist, meaning I give back to the community some of the blessings that's been bestowed upon me. I am also a former county commissioner, so I understand the process in which government operates. Married for 18 years, have 2 twin daughters, 14 years old. Those in the business community, small business in particular, and the not-for-profit community understand J.W. Gibson to be a hard but fair individual. I'm running for mayor because I have a passion for this city. I have a passion for all Memphians. And I think there's an opportunity for us to do extremely more to cater to those needs of the community as a whole. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm State Representative Karen Camper, born and raised here in Memphis, Tennessee. I graduated from Southside High School, went off to the University of Tennessee for a while, and was eventually recruited to go into the Army, of which I served 21 years as an Army intelligence officer, retired, came home, started working in my community. I was a substitute teacher for 7 years, working with young people with a nonprofit I founded in 2001, educating young people who wanted to be in the music industry to teach them the business behind the business of the music industry. In 2008, I was appointed and then eventually elected to serve in the State House. And so for 15 years, I've been in Nashville fighting for Memphis, bringing home results from Memphis, bringing funding here to our city for Memphis and its citizens, to include the Muslim community. I've always been with the community when they've had their days on the hills. Your numbers have increased immensely over the years, and I've continued to fight and support the issues that are very important to your community. I decided to run for mayor because I was really excited about the possibility that Blue Oval City would bring to Memphis and its transformation. And in that, I wanted everybody to be at the table, everybody to take part in it, and everybody to grow from it, because it will revolutionize and transform our community. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight.
Assalamu alaikum. I was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Los Angeles, been here for more than half a century as a grown man. I got my degree in political science, specializing in international relations and urban development from UCLA. I am a businessman. I also consult with your local halal industry, which is unique in the United States. I have been a friend of Islam for the longest. I'm going to make sure that it is included in everything and anything that concerns this city. I commit myself to that. I have run the public defender's office, was the first black prosecutor in the history of this city, been in law enforcement for 46, 47 years, one way or another, been a criminal court judge. I've done everything that goes around with that. I'm notorious across the country for having plans and programs that cut back crime. I'm negotiating with some of the street gangs right now as we speak with reducing street crime and the homicide rate. I can do that. Nobody else can go where I can go. You need me to lead this city to prosperity.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to community questions. And these questions, everyone will have 1 minute to answer. And we'll start with Ms. McKissick and go down that way. So let's have our questioner come up. Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the candidates. My question is about housing. As our city's landscape undergoes transformation, the issue of housing affordability stands out as a pressing concern. Escalating housing prices and high interest rates have made it difficult for residents to purchase homes, leading many to turn to rentals, unfortunately. How will your administration confront this challenge head-on and strive to establish a housing market in Memphis that is within reach for a broader spectrum of our community? What concrete steps and strategies will you employ to effectively alleviate this housing crisis, ensuring accessibility and affordability for all residents of Memphis?
Thank you. Housing is an essential part to people feeling a part of a community. And when you're feeling unhoused, as I just came from an event earlier today where a woman is living in a rooming house. And she explained that how she got there was through her sister passing away, and that's who she stayed with prior. So the city of Memphis needs to partner with other organizations that are doing the work already. There is a problem here in Memphis where we're operating too much in silos. With my plan, Whole City Memphis, I talk about affordable housing and how the city of Memphis can partner with our nonprofit communities who are working with CDCs. An example of that is taking property that is vacant and selling it or turning it over to CDCs who could then redevelop it and turn it into affordable housing. I'd love to share more with you, but I'm just got the 15-second sign, but please visit my website at michellefrommemphis.com where I go into great detail about it. Thank you.
With the issue of affordable housing, it's one that's a growing crisis, not just in Memphis, but it's all over this country. In our metropolitan area, it has been shown that we need over 38,000 quality affordable housing units in our area. And so it's not going to be an issue that we're able to resolve quickly, but we can be taking aggressive steps towards remediating the challenge. When I was the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Memphis, we established the city's first affordable housing trust fund. And with this fund, we're able to take city dollars, put it into housing units, and ensure that the unit remains affordable over a 20-year period. So we should use strategies like that. We should also be exploring rental subsidies. Right now we use the Section 8 program to provide a rental subsidy for renters. We as a city should be looking at how we can put more into programs like that, because we currently have over 8,000 people on the waiting list for that program.
Thanks for the question. It's just so happened that one of the 3 businesses that I still have in existence deal with real estate development, mainly around affordable housing. I got started at the behest of my pastor asking me to build independent elderly housing. We did that. Those facilities are still operating today, and it has a waiting list. Coincidentally enough, this subject matter came up yesterday in an interview with Mar. And we talked about a concept that I have, whereas we can partner some of the realtors with non-for-profit CDCs within the communities to build collaborative partnerships where we could take advantage of some of the city's vacant properties, as well as some of the properties that are in the land bank. Work together to take control of those properties and start to develop affordable housing. That does 2 things. It helps to eliminate plight, and it also helps to increase property revenue because we're putting those vacant lots back on the tax roll. They were very excited about it. I'm excited about it. Hopefully you're excited about it. And to hear that you want to become engaged in the community, give us an opportunity to work together in the future. And I look forward to that.
This is a very complex problem we have, and I feel it needs a multifaceted solution. So one of the things I want to do when I become mayor is I have an initiative that will provide funding that'll be dedicated for people to get a grant to go in and revitalize abandoned properties, dilapidated properties, and as well as some of the vacant lots in a lot of the marginalized communities that just haven't seen any investment over several years. Another thing I want to do is go to Nashville and seek authorization from the legislature to create a program that also provide grants, but to nonprofit organizations that have residential property where they can receive grants if they were to reduce the lease price 25% below market value. The third thing I like to do is find an incentive for, my time is up. We'll talk about it later.
I'm going to end the corruption in the allocation and distribution of the taxpayers' dollars in this town. The money freed up can be used for subsidizing the middle class small businessmen, a lot of whom I see out at Southland Mall, and I'm proud to work with them. We're going to deal with ending this hodgepodge of zoning variants that lets the city drift off into never land instead of being focused. We will expand trade and industry into Europe and the Middle East. We will develop the electric power inherent down here in the Mississippi River so we reduce the cost and bring in industry. We will do things as necessary so that we can finance equitably what is needed for housing and business development.
Dealing with housing affordability is a big problem. It's a problem that we've got to take a holistic approach with absentee owners, owners that are not even living in our city, that's not taking care of their property, dealing with blight. We've got to work with the state. We've got to work with our CDCs, our nonprofits to allow our citizens better housing. You know, 38126 is one of the poorest zip codes in our city of Memphis. And we've got to do a better job of preparing new homeowners. And I've seen many homeowners coming out of federal housing and becoming homeowners, yet they don't know how to be a homeowner. So there are many things that we've got to work on. We're going to work as hard as we can for affordable housing for so many people that are here in Memphis and Shelby County. Thank you.
Thank you. The next community question, Mr. Young will be the first one to answer. Do we? Oh. We already have the questions, determined. Hello?
Working. The question, excuse me. The question is, I'm a developer. I've been in the area for the last 30 years. There's a lot of us in the community that has properties and invested in the county, between the city and the county, and they having problems to connect to the public sewer. Is there an issue or an agenda on the table that to solve the problem between the city and county on the infrastructure problem? Thank you.
So I'll speak directly to the issue that you pointed out, which is the fact that in unincorporated Shelby County, the city of Memphis has put in place a rule that you cannot tap into the city's sewer. I do support the notion of ensuring that growth in the city is ensured to be able to be done based on having capacity with our sewer. However, I also believe that Memphis as a region is stronger together. And so in order to address that rule, which I know has limited development in the exterior of the city, I would be open to exploring impact fees. So you wouldn't pay the same price that you pay within the city because we want to have that capacity for our city. But for those areas that need to grow and they need capacity, I would be open to having a higher fee available for developers to be able to tap into the system.
So I, too, as a developer, understand your position and your concerns. I somewhat understand why Mayor Strickland did what he did. However, I believe that's one of those situations where we perhaps might have cut off our nose to spite our face. And as we talk about how we grow this region beyond just the city of Memphis, we need to sit down again at the table to talk about how best to do that from a regional perspective. I think there are opportunities now to do that. My motto as I become the mayor is collaborations and working together to engage the community for a brighter future for all of us. And we can't do this by being a silo-operated city government. We have got to open up and be flexible to hearing different ideas. So we will take another look at that when I become mayor.
I agree that we need to look at this area more regionally, particularly with Blue Oval coming. And I know there was an initiative just this last year with about 30 mayors in the area to actually look at these kinds of issues. I was open to that. I'm still open to that. I know we need to do something, but we need to convene the right people to have a real, open, honest conversation on how do we move forward with this. So I'm open to that. I agree with the 30 mayors coming together. With Blue Oval coming, it is going to transform this area. So we have to work in a regional way. We have to work where all of the surrounding cities are a part of it, our county working in conjunction with counties around us as well. And so the mayor can be a leader in that, and I pledge to do that.
The 1997 restriction on sewage intervention, sir, is compounded by the deterioration of the infrastructure of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. Our sewerage system is decrepit. Ford Motor Company wants to absorb Mason so they can get advantage of the agreement Mason has with MLG&W, but that will overwhelm our system. My plan on using the river for energy production will alleviate the problem because the money will be available to restore MLG's infrastructure. All of this back and forth we're having now will become unnecessary. The management of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water is frankly incompetent, and it does not need to continue. The city needs to take action to restore its control over Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And we have everything we need to have prosperity if we have some uniformity in enforcement of our law and a lack of the corruption we have right now.
I too understand that the policies of the city of Memphis with Mayor Strickland putting Memphis first, but we need our municipalities. I've also had conversations with the municipal mayors and talking with them about this sewer issue. We've got to work together. Memphis is our would be my number one priority. However, I do understand that our outlying, our cities and cities that are around Memphis must be considered as well. So I'm willing to sit down and work with our municipalities, talk to our municipalities, government, and their mayors, and to work out a solution to this problem because, again, we want to be a prosperous area. We want to be leaders in this area. Thank you.
As I've been talking to people all across Memphis, and developers included, it really dovetails perfectly with my whole city Memphis plan because, again, operating in silos and not talking to each other, and more importantly, listening to the people who are directly impacted. I think we need to start there, first of all, like the concern you just brought up this evening. And I know that's something that's definitely correlated with challenges that developers are having because as a commissioner on the school board, we're facing the same problem with the city of Memphis. We're trying to build a new high school in the east portion of Memphis. It's going to cost about $160 million. We would like the city of Memphis to help carry the cost for the sewers. That would save us at least $20 million to get this new high school built, which is so desperately needed because it's a real growth area here in Memphis. So partnering with people, partnering with developers who know where the problems are, because sometimes when you're sitting in those offices in City Hall and you're not interacting with real people, that's where the disconnect happens. Thank you.
So our next question, we'll start with Mr. Gibson. Where do we have? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Angie O'Day. Muslim Americans are part of the rich cultural diversity of Memphis, but the representation just seems to be a little bit lacking. So what specifically would you do to include minorities and specifically Muslim Americans who are qualified to walk and be able to make some decisions and to help lead the city?
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Thank you. And I submit to you that under my administration, we will give the Muslim community more than enough opportunities to become engaged. We will start off with taking a look at those 34, 36 different community boards that I will have the ability to appoint individuals to. If you say you want to become engaged, we're going to get you engaged. That's one of the top priorities for my administration, is engaging the community. We need that engagement. When we talk about the issues of the community, be it crime, economic development, housing, or what have you, there's a tendency for us to point fingers and suggest it's somebody else's responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. The mayor can't do it by himself, the police chief can't do it by herself, and the list goes on and on. So I'm ecstatic to hear you talk about wanting to be involved, because we will get you involved. Thank you.
Two things I want to do. One, I want to create the Office of Social Justice and Advocacy to make sure people have access to the mayor on a continuous basis. Secondly, I want to and plan to expand the advisory council we have now on multicultural affairs. I feel as if we need to stand up the office that used to be there so that we can be more inclusive in who is working at City Hall, but also appoint people to the various boards. So we're going to need, my administration is going to need people to want to stand up and be a part so that we can make those appointments and hire people to be a part of the overall administration. So I will be talking with community leaders, some of you are in this room, to make sure that we're being not only inclusive in our thought and in our hiring practices, but also make people feel like they belong there. So I can hire you and still treat you some kind of way. I don't plan to do that. So we will do the hiring, be inclusive, and make sure you feel like you belong a part of city government and looking at the direction of where this city is going in the future.
The local Islamic community is itself a great shining example of diversity and inclusion. You shall help me run this city. If you are listening to everybody else closely, they seem to be indicating that they want to govern by committee. I don't. I will be the leader, the sheikh, the chief. You will assist me. We will do this together. If they don't know what's to be done, it's too late after they get elected to have to appoint a committee to tell them what to do. We've had too much in this city of the clueless leading the clueless, and nobody gets anything done. So let's move on together with me in charge, and we will do it.
Yes, City of Memphis already has an Office of Multicultural Affairs, but I propose to expand that office. That office needs to build relationships with not only the Muslim community, but with all communities. If you look at what I'm doing now as your sheriff, I have included all people, all inclusive. I've hired women, I've hired African Americans, I've hired whites. And we want you to be involved with city government. It is so important for the Muslim community to have a say, to have their say in city government. And we will work extremely hard to build those relationships that I have with many people that are already in this room, and continue to move forward for the prosperous city of Memphis. Thank you.
This past weekend, I attended the Multicultural Festival at the Agri Center, and it was such a rewarding experience. And when I was interviewed there, I mentioned that I am uniquely prepared in this subject because Memphis Shelby County Schools is the most diverse, the most multicultural government corporate entity in all of Memphis. That's what we do. We serve every child that comes through our doors with English as a second language or whatever the case may be, and especially the Muslim community. So this is something that I'm already in tune with for the last 5 years as I've been working to make our school district work better and working with the families of this district. So absolutely build upon the Multicultural Affairs Office that we have now, and to place people on the boards in which make a lot of the decisions that are kind of in the shadows that most Memphians don't know about. So we need to make sure that representation is in every facet of our city government, because representation matters. Thank you.
I often tell people that diversity is our superpower here in Memphis. It's the thing that makes us special. It's the thing that makes us stand out as a community. And I believe that that is how we engage our citizens in the future, is that we let them understand how strong it is to have a diverse community. And I want to make sure that it's represented throughout my administration. So as we think about our appointments, I want, when I talk about diversity, I'm not just talking about race, I'm talking about religion, orientation, and every other facet. because that's an inclusive government. That's the inclusive government that we need in order to move our community into the future. And so you'll see it represented with an Office of Multicultural Affairs. We'll strengthen that office. We'll ensure that there's an advisory committee that's made up of members from various segments of our community to make sure that we are getting the best information on how to advance issues that are important to the respective communities in our city.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Representative Karen Camper, who has the mic. Okay. Please introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Muhammad Khan. My question is related to crimes. So, as you know that in our city, our crimes are very high, and it's continued to go high instead of getting better. So my question is, why do you think Memphis is so high in crimes than the other cities? And what do you think is the cause of these crimes? And how do you plan to address it? Thank you.
May you repeat that again? It was a little bit hard to hear up here.
Okay, I'll repeat it. So my question is about the crimes. Can you hear me that? Yes. The question is about the crimes, and as you know, Memphis is very high on crimes than the other cities. So what I'm asking is, what is the cause of this crime? Why the Memphis is so high, and then what is your plan to address it? How are you going to address that?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think a lot of the problem with crime we have here is due to poverty. We have a lot of people living in poverty. I think there's a lot of people who have been a part of the criminal justice system, and when they were locked up or had engagement with the system, it hardened them the more. It didn't give them the services that they need to rehabilitate them, so they came back and they recidivated. And when you recidivate and come back and you don't have the wraparound services that you need, oftentimes you reoffend. So I think we need to do more to look at our entire system of how do we rehabilitate people when they get in the system, but at the same time, we're not doing enough to intervene and prevent crime in the first place. So in my administration, I plan to invest a historic amount of my funding toward intervention and prevention of crime, particularly with our youth. I have a plan to create a vocational technical zone that will engage young people where they are, meet them where they are, and help them as they grow into adulthood.
When you elected me to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge over a 10-year period, I was able to reduce the felony repeat rate from 80% statewide to just 18% in my courtroom. I've learned a lot since then, and I can do better as mayor. If you check around with the faithful, the community that's been here for a while and knows me, they'll tell you why support for me is support for yourself. A vote for me is a vote for yourself. And in Islam, we do not tolerate this kind of mess going on with this criminality, because it's a matter of character, it's a matter of ethics, it's a matter of morality that our society here in this area seems to have gotten away from. I will impose morality, ethics, character, sense of purpose, sense of honor, obligation, and duty so we can restore things. I'm already doing that right now with street gangs, and I've got a commitment to reduce the violence. I worked with the Bahamas and Jamaica in the last 2 decades to deal with the same problems over there with their government, and we were able to come up with effective responses to street crime and organized crime. I intend to do that here, and you will be part of it. Thank you.
I think when you take a look at crime, you have to look at it from a holistic approach. When we look at crime, juvenile crime, adult crime, all the different crimes, then we can talk about guns in our community. I know what's drive our numbers is thefts from motor vehicles, where young people are getting access to guns because we're not storing our guns safely. So when you look at it, sure, we've got to have intervention and prevention, but we also got to hold criminals accountable. We've got to hold criminals accountable for the deeds that they're doing. Then I believe we also must hold parents accountable for what their children are doing. My wife and I, Audrey, of 41 years, we've raised 2 sons in this community, and we were responsible for those children. We were responsible for what our sons did and how they lived throughout this community. So we have a plan to intervene. What we're doing now in the sheriff's office, different programs, and not only talking about different programs, but putting more police officers on the streets.
You asked why crime is so bad? Well, it's actually generations of neglect rooted in poverty and lack of opportunity. So that's part of the why. But how do we go about tackling crime and improving it? I call it, in my whole city safety plan, the 3 Ps: partnering with police, providing justice, and preventing crime. Partnering with police, that means hiring more patrol officers. We're understaffed for a city the size of Memphis. But also we need to hire more investigators, more detectives. The FBI, according to its 2021 statistics, 4 out of 5 crimes here in Memphis are not solved. So we need to get at the root problem of who's actually committing these crimes, and then the providing justice, hold them accountable. We have a revolving door when it comes to posting bail. It shouldn't be like that. We have to work on that. And finally, preventing crime, that's investing in our young people. Investing in young people is investing in preventing crime, and much earlier than waiting till they're in high school. You've got to start like when they're in elementary school. Thank you.
So you started your question with why is crime occurring? And I think the answer is that there are individuals in our community that feel hopeless. I often give the example of, can you imagine if your 10-year-old child went home and nobody cared where they were? Just imagine your child as a 10-year-old. Nobody cares where they are. No one cares if they ate tonight, and they're left to their own wilds. They're going to go out there and figure it out. And there are people on the streets that are welcoming them in. They're giving them opportunities to go and find a way to make money. And that's what's happening in our community. And so in order to address it, it's twofold. One, we have to hold people accountable that are terrorizing our neighborhoods and communities. The second and equally important part is that we must intervene and prevent. We must share data. We know who the young people are that are headed down the wrong road, but we just wait until we have to hold them accountable later. We should intervene now and provide opportunities to them to change their direction.
Crime is such a multifaceted, complicated issue. Some of the reasons you ask why: poverty, lack of education, unemployment, single-parent homes, and there's many, many more. My answer to those issues is within the first 100 days, we will convene a crime summit of the brightest locally and nationally to come to the table to talk about creating strategy that would address how we put together creative curriculum within the high schools so that kids can walk away with a trained opportunity to get a fair living wage job. We will also bring back workforce development. Because of employment being at the rate that it is right now, we need to train our constituents to fulfill those 5,000 jobs that Blue Over has available, to fulfill those 15,000 jobs that are already in the community. When you bring together a holistic approach on dealing with crime, I think together we can bring the crime rate down. Thank you.
Again, another community question. Who has the microphone? Again, we'll start with Judge Joe Brown, and we have 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Babakar. I'm the president of Masjid Islam. The question that I have is related to businesses. You know, in order to help a community, you have to know their needs. And our need is mostly halal. It came to a time where most businesses here, Muslim people, and I could see some here, their bank accounts were closed for no reason. What I'm saying is, it came to a time where most Muslim businesses was closed here in Memphis. Some of them do not have anywhere to go, even to reopen their bank's accounts. Banks are not helping them. CDFI are not helping them. Even the credit union sometimes help them, but a little. My question is, when you become mayor, how would you collaborate with the Muslim community so at least their access to capital could be great, so they could mention their businesses and enhance also their businesses as well?
The Islamic community will be included equally in everything the city is about. The finances that you're talking about, the difficulties you talk about will no longer be there because the banking practices of this city will be more inclusive. My late brother used to be commander of the Royal Guards of Amun-Ra and also the chief bodyguard for head of Saudi counterintelligence, and he and I went over a lot of things with the sheikh involved that dealt with that kind of problem as it impacted the Islamic community in the United States and specifically Memphis, Tennessee. That's been years ago, but I have not forgotten, and those things that I learned shall be put into play for the benefit of the Islamic community.
Yes, I think earlier I mentioned the Office of Multicultural Diversity. And that's very important when we start talking about looking at the Muslim community, as well as all communities here in our city. It's about building relationships, having those relationships, having somewhere that you can go as a business owner to come and speak to city government, the government that you pay taxes for, the government that you expect help from. So expanding those offices, talking with you, talking with many of the leaders of this community, and drilling down, if you will, to the specific problems that are going on with your business, and then having a mayor that's going to listen, a mayor that's going to respond, a mayor that's going to be there for you. And I'm that guy. I will be there for you for those conversations. Thank you.
It was mentioned at the beginning of this forum that this was the very first time that you've had a mayoral forum. Well, that's the answer. The answer is right there. The fact that this needs to not be a one and done situation. There needs to be an ongoing regular meeting with the American Muslim Advisory Council, because it's not like one time and then you have all the answers. The conversation needs to be ongoing. It has to be ongoing. That's the only way that we're going to stay connected. Thank you.
So the question was around access to capital, and this is a challenge that's not just present in the Muslim community, but many communities throughout our city are struggling with access to capital. The banks have various programs through their CRA efforts where they're supposed to invest in these communities, but there are still limitations to being able to get those dollars out. I want to work with the banking community to ensure that they are exercising as much discretion as possible to remove some of the barriers so that those dollars can get into the community. I also want to be able to leverage some of our incentive programs, similar to work that we do at downtown Memphis, where we take the fees that are paid from a pilot and we create loans and grants that can be provided to businesses that are looking in the downtown area. There's no reason that we can't do that all across our city.
So as a business owner, I can tell you firsthand, I've lived that life. I've lived that life 4 times over in attempting to start 4 different businesses. So I know firsthand what you're feeling, what you're going through. There is an opportunity for us to work together in a collaborative way, to bring together some of the collaborative groups, some of the advocacy groups that are in the community, i.e. MMBC, BBA, SCORE. We have opportunities to partner them up with other entities like SCORE, Small Business Administration, to create those creative opportunities to find funds. I also submit to you that my administration will create a grant department within housing and community development. The sole purpose would be to reach out to grant dollars from a federal level, again with SCORE, with CRAs within the different banks, to help find those funds that you need to make those available to you. Thank you.
I've always been a supporter. I've always had access unlimited to my office in Nashville. I'll continue to do that as your mayor. I've always fought for the issues that are pertinent and important for this community, and I'll continue to do that as mayor. But I do understand that there's a problem with access to capital. And I will work with the banks, but not only that, you need somebody that's going to advocate for you with the banks and say, hey, you have to do this, and create innovative ways to actually do it. Not just sit down at a meeting and arrange for a meeting for you to have, but be in those meetings with you. I have demonstrated that as your state representative right now. I don't just set the meeting, I go to the meeting with you and become an advocate for you. I'll do the same with the banking institutions. I'll do the same with the Commissioner of Finance with Commissioner of Finance and Financial Institutions. Not just set a meeting, but be at the meeting and advocate for you as your mayor.
Thank you. The next community question, again, this time we'll start with Sheriff Boner, and you'll have 1 minute. So, who has the...
My name is Bashar Shala. I have a question. I moved to Tennessee about 35 years ago. Can you hear me? And at that time, we had a choice to go to Knoxville, Nashville, or Memphis. And Memphis was the most attractive, had a lot of business going, was a hub for airline. What is your plan to revive the city economy by bringing outside businesses to come to this town and reestablish? It seems like this city is dying on the vines from that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for moving to Memphis and making your choice here. Memphis is a great town, it's a great city. We're investing heavily. We will invest heavily in our infrastructure. When you talk about our airports, our roads, the different, even our educational system, one of the things that I hadn't had an opportunity to speak of tonight is our $50 million debt cliff that's coming off the book, which is reoccurring funds that will occur throughout city government. Now that's about 2 years away, but we're all recognizing what our issues are, what the problems are, and we're gonna find solutions because again, we appreciate you coming to Memphis. We wanna keep you here in Memphis. When we talk about Blue Oval and all the things that are gonna happen, which are gonna be great, but there are going to be many, many jobs that are going to spin off from Blue Oval. We've got to be a job-ready city. We've got to provide those opportunities for our youth as well as our business leaders and our developers that are here in the city. I don't know what you do for a living, but thank you for being here.
Attracting new business is definitely an important part of a city growing and all the pilot tax incentives. But I think a big part that's missing is the 80% of small businesses that make up Memphis, and investing more in them and reducing those barriers of cutting down on zoning, fast track zoning, and improving the fast track zoning and building approvals for those types of companies to also build in neighborhoods. We've got to get outside of just focusing on downtown Memphis or perhaps the East Memphis Poplar Corridor. What people are telling me is that we need to invest in other parts of our community. That's why we're dying on the vine. When you look at neighborhoods in North Memphis and South Memphis, there's been no investment in these communities. And so therefore, if you're not focusing on the lifeblood of communities where they're hiring people within their own communities, that's where you're gonna have a problem. Thank you.
In order to bring new businesses to our community, we're going to have to lean into our strengths. One stat that the Memphis Chamber recently put out was that Memphis has more black and female tech talent per capita than any city in the country. So what that means is, as we recruit companies to Memphis, we lean into a strength like that. So if you're Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and all these companies that are expanding and they're in the tech sector, we have the diversity and we have the talent, and this is the city that we should be recruiting them to. The other thing that we must do is make sure that we're supporting our small businesses. I work with a lot of developers, one type of construction firm that I have worked with is a carpenter. You may have the best carpenter in the city, but they're not the best CFO or HR manager. So when it comes to doing the things to grow their business, they're limited. What other communities have done is they've established these back office entities that can support those small businesses so that they can focus on growth. And we will do those types of things as I'm your mayor.
So, sir, I have to respectfully disagree with you. I do not think Memphis is dying on the vine. I am very much bullish on Memphis and its future. If you were to talk to the leadership at the Chamber of Commerce, they would tell you of the success we're seeing of companies being recruited to Memphis, and that pipeline is filled. I will join the Chamber of Commerce as your mayor to join that recruiting effort. We have a lot to be proud of here in Memphis. The opportunities are wide and broad. We need leadership that's going to actually step up and be about bringing together that coalition to realize those opportunities versus just talking about them. Truly enough, we're seeing some decline, but it's because of leadership not taking that assertive role in bringing to the table those jobs and workforce development that's going to fill those jobs. Pull those together, you will start to see more and more every day the increase of opportunities.
When businesses look to come here, they look at safety and crime, they look at schools, they look at neighborhoods. So I want to and will put together a public safety long-term strategic plan, which we do not have here. The Crime Commission have a plan, but our city needs a strategic plan to get at crime reduction. Secondly, our schools are very important. So the city is going to have to partner with the schools because Memphis doesn't have its own school system, but we can fund some things at the school system in a partnership. Thirdly, we need to invest in our neighborhoods that's been neglected for years. So we revitalize these neighborhoods so that they can be thriving just like any other neighborhood in this city. That's going to help rebuild our tax base that you spoke about where people are leaving. We have got to get people back into our city. We do have great strengths, we have great parks, but people care about, companies care about safety, schools, and neighborhoods.
I've done an independent audit of sorts, and I see close to $4.5 billion of Memphis money that's about to be wasted and spent on a select few people at the expense of the many. We need to take that back. I have connections internationally and nationally, and I know business concerns in Europe and in the Middle East that want to get into Memphis because of its opportunities as a distribution center, but they are blocked because they keep getting solicited for bribes. I know where these people are. I know who needs to go to jail. I will see to it that that happens. We're going to take this town back because we have the money, and what we have available ought to be put to the use of the people instead of the very few. That will stop, I promise you. And we will have a very prosperous city because we have absolutely everything we need if some people would be removed from our pathway with their corruption.
So now we'll have the next community question, and we'll start with Ms. Kissick. Who do we have? Okay, please introduce yourself.
Greetings. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Hasnain, and I'll talk a little bit slower than I usually do so you can hear me. So can you all hear me okay? All right. So let's go back to the question of the airport. Obviously, the community here loves to travel. We have family, perhaps overseas or in other cities, major cities within the U.S. And I'm an IT and engineering professional. I travel for work as well. What is lacking at the moment are more direct flights to other cities, major cities within the U.S. and internationally. So question number one, it's one in sort of A and B. What can you help us with in terms of direct flights to major cities in the U.S. and abroad? And number two, I find it quite concerning that given that we live in sort of this, as it's known to be a Bible Belt, we, obviously are Muslims here, but given that there's such a strong sense of, worship in our town, that the airport, the new revitalized airport, Terminal B, does not have a prayer room or a meditation room on the inside of the security check-in area where you're waiting by the gate. We have a prayer room on the outside, but not on the inside. So as you are going to travel, again, many families here travel for personal reasons and business like myself, we don't have a place to do worship. Again, so many churches in town, I find it kind of odd that we didn't go for that. So question A is, what can you help us with direct flights to other cities, major cities and hubs? And number two, can you help us and partner with Memphis Islamic Center to put in a prayer meditation room on the inside? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And I absolutely agree that it's ridiculous that Memphis is one of the most expensive cities to fly in and out of. We no longer have a hub. I was a news reporter here in Memphis when Northwest Airlines was here, and I remember covering that story when they were leaving town. And it was heart-wrenching because I knew that it would impact my personal travel and then for everyone in the city, and that has not changed, and that was well over 20 years ago. So we have got to work to get a hub back here in Memphis with our the Memphis Airport Authority, with our Federal Transportation Agency. And so that's one part of it. To get to the second part of your question, absolutely. I think that happened because perhaps we weren't hearing and having this sort of representation to be a part of that conversation to see where the disconnect was. So that's why it's so important to continue to have ongoing relationships with all members of all types of communities, including the Muslim community, to bring that to awareness. So yes, as your next mayor, I would absolutely work to make sure we have a prayer room on the inside. Thank you.
So there's a direct correlation with the number of direct flights that we have with how many passengers are actually traveling to those destinations. And so it's going to take us working with our airport authority to ensure that they're collecting that data to show where the destinations where Memphians are constantly going that we do not have direct flights towards, and working with the airlines to ensure that they bring them here. We also should be working to bring smaller airlines to our airport to ensure that they are providing more competition to the airlines that are here currently. And those are the types of things that I am going to be aggressively doing as your mayor, because it has a direct correlation to economic development. Because when people are moving to our community, they want to know how quickly they can get to their other destinations. And with regards to the prayer room, that would absolutely be something that I would be very interested in working with the Memphis Islamic Center and ensuring that we have created in our airport.
I think that's a wonderful question. It's just so happened that I served on the airport authority in my prior years. So I'm very familiar with the HUD disbursement. I'm very familiar with the attempt to bring in more direct flights. And this is truly one of those complicated conversations because a lot goes into the determination as to whether or not our airline wants to move to Memphis. As dim as it might seem to you, sir, the direct flights coming into Memphis increase. They're constantly increasing. Over the last 18 months, we have seen approximately a 30% increase in flights coming in directly from Memphis. The key to that occurring is mainly around business. Our business community is helping us today as we speak in identifying those cities that they have opportunity to do business with that will create that need for a direct flight to that city, be it Baltimore or whatever. The work is being done, sir, I promise you, and I like the idea of a prayer center. We're going to talk about that in more detail. I think it can happen.
I remember when Northwest Airlink went away as well, and Delta, when they bought them, made a commitment that they would keep the hub here in Memphis, but they didn't. They moved it to Atlanta, and that really began to put a lot of pressure and cost on the remaining airlines that are still here. We are increasing the numbers, but we can do better. I agree that we need to look at some of the smaller airlines to bring them here, become a regional airline, aerotropolis ourselves. With Blue Oval City coming, demand is going to go up. We start investing in our neighborhoods again and bringing people back to the city of Memphis, the numbers will go up. We'll get the density, we'll get the businesses coming in and out, but we have to be thinking and planning now for it. So I do really appreciate the question. As we are moving into this transformation that's going to happen with Blue Oval City, we have to be thinking about what is the strategy to bring those airlines here. Yes, I agree with the prayer room.
You'll get the room. There'll also be meditation rooms for others. I'm very familiar with the chaos at this airport. I travel a lot too. It's ridiculous. There is a lawsuit in the future of Delta Airlines that the city's going to bring against it for fraud and breach of agreement. Now, to show you the difference in what can happen, FedEx is out there, UPS is out there, the Bulk Mail Center is out there, and Memphis, as rinky-dink as it looks, is the largest commercial airport in the world. The commercial tonnage is 2.5 million tons, metric tons. Hong Kong has about 1.1 million metric tons. They're half our size. That is inexcusable when it comes to our passengers, and there shall be more flights, or there might be a little inconvenience for Delta. And by the way, on the other thing with this smaller airlines, one came in here, weren't even incorporated, and the city gave them $28 million and didn't even try to get it back because some of the city council took some stuff under the table. That's going to stop.
Sir, thank you for your question. And I know many of you fly international. You know, the mayor has a lot to do with appointing the airport board. And yes, you will get a prayer room when I become the next mayor. It is so important that diversity, and that's why we're here today, not only to talk about different issues that we're talking about, but many things that are being looked over, the Muslim community being looked over. And that's why it's so important to engage and have that engagement with our elected officials. As the sheriff, I've always had an open door policy. As the next mayor, I will have an open door policy. I will speak to the community. I've talked to many of you here in this room about different issues, security issues, whatever the issue is, and that's what I said earlier about becoming a welcoming city. We must become a welcoming city to all people, to everyone, to make our community so much better than what it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. So our last community question. We don't have time. So let's do this. If we have 3 more questions, we can allow 2 candidates to answer each question. So, or, and we want to be able to have time afterwards also for you to individually ask candidates questions. So,
may we have it, I'm sorry, be 3 and for
Yeah, three, and then two people answer, yeah, that way. Okay. First question.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Hi. My name is Adam Saleh. I'm a freshman at University of Memphis. Now, unfortunately, my question is very all for one, or one for all, I guess. Okay. Whoever one of you are brave enough to answer this one then. How have you tackled complex issues in the past that show you will succeed in executing solutions to the ones that are under your jurisdiction now as mayor?
Who wants to answer this one? Okay. Judge Joe Brown?
Judge Joe Brown.
You want to go? Okay. I think they were saying to continue
in the order.
Like that way in the order that we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll let yes, Mr. Young and then Mr. Gibson answer.
So complex challenges and how we deal with complex challenges. This is something that I deal with every day. One example that I'll give you is a building that sits in the heart of Orange Mound, one of the most historic African American communities in this country, shut down in 1979. And the community had been screaming for answers. Some in the community said, please tear it down because I've been looking at this blight for the last 20 years. Others wanted to save the building because it meant so much to the history of the community. I was Director of Housing and Community Development. We went to that community. We held a series of meetings. We did a temporary activation where we brought people in, showed them arts and all these different activities in the space. Now that building is being redeveloped as a library with a genealogy center that's focused on African American genealogy in the heart of one of the most historic African American communities in this country. That's the type of work that I've been able to do throughout my career, bringing people together to solve difficult challenges.
Mr. Gibson?
So I'd like to share with you a personal challenge that I encountered in conference. Back in 2003, there was an opportunity for lottery to be brought to the state of Tennessee. And I thought for sure it was going to happen. I had all the belief that it would happen. So I went around the country and I started visiting lottery conferences in order to understand the terminology, the technology, and the expectation of that lottery industry. In 2004, the legislation passed in the state of Tennessee, and I, along with 29 other print vendors, applied for that job. I, at the time, was not up in the operating print shop. I asked for 130 days in my submission because I didn't have a print shop, I didn't have employees or a press. Within 115 days, they came in and did an inspection. And we've been printing the lottery tickets for the state of Tennessee ever since 2004. How many of y'all knew lottery tickets was being printed in Memphis? That's what I thought. But it is. It's being printed in Memphis today. And we are contributing $7 billion to the educational system across the state of Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, and we'll have Representative Camper and Judge Joe Brown answer.
Okay, I know they asked all the good questions, but I'll go ahead and ask my question. My name is Nash. I'm the chairman of the Muslim Society of Memphis. Now, what would you do as mayor to attract new businesses and industry to our city? Can you provide examples of infrastructure investments or incentives that would benefit the city's economy so we can attract more businesses and companies to come to Memphis?
Yes, thank you for that question, particularly around infrastructure. I know infrastructure is a high concern. Last year in the General, actually it was this year in the General Assembly, knowing that Blue Oval City was coming, I made sure that we appropriated funds in the budget to actually look at infrastructure and the impact that it was going to have. So we commissioned a study. It looked at light rail, it looked at shuttles, it looked at a regional bus system, it looked at the entire transportation infrastructure here, which is, I know, something that's very important to this community. And in addition to that, a lot of the things that it's going to take to bring businesses here, you're going to have a relationship with Nashville. You're going to have a relationship with Washington in order to bring down the funds necessary to do the things that you're talking about. I have those relationships. I've been serving for 15 years, not only in the General Assembly, but I have the relationships with the executive branch as well to make sure that we can get those things done. Thank you for the question.
I have national and international connections. I will be the ambassador and the diplomat for Memphis to bring industry in here. If you want to see my style, some of you remember when I had that show for 15 years, you got a chance to look at me every day, all through your homes and places of business as to how I did it. For complex problems that are inherent in this and resolving matters that need to be resolved, I was a state circuit court judge for 2 8-year terms, and that was my business. I know people all over this world, and I know how anxious they are to get into Memphis, and I will cut through the tape, and I'll get them here. I'll bring them in where there's power, there's decency, morality, ethics, education, street peace, and a place for people to settle.
So we're down to our last community question, and we'll start with Sheriff Boner.
Yes, hi. My name is Nidal Amro. We all agree that America is great, right? What makes America great is its Constitution. And the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is freedom of religion. It says that everyone in the United States has the right to practice his or her own religion. As American Muslims, and of course, talking to my kids, I'm probably adult. I practice my religion freely when I used to live in New York in the 80s. Right now, my kids, I believe, and most of the American Muslim kids, having a hard time to practice this right, especially in schools. Some of them, they get bullied. Some of them, they don't even have a room in school, like the brother here mentioned in the airport, but in school at least, to have a break to go do their prayers. As a mayor, what would you do? Or this is a request. Would you shine the light on this First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution about the freedom of religion? Would you push the schools or even different locations, or make it a very serious issue if somebody gets bullied with their religion? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's my duty as sheriff now. It's about diversity. It's about inclusion. It's about including everyone in our community, the Muslim community as well. We've got to work together, and again, having these conversations with not only the mayor's office, but also with our education, our educators, and talking with them. You have access to me. You will have access to me as your next mayor. But more importantly, we've got to continue these conversations to bring the light to what's going on. When we start talking about not having prayer rooms in the airport, these are things maybe some of us didn't even know or even understood what was going on. So again, it's about having a meaningful relationship, having good conversation to correct some of the problems that you should be able to correct.
Thank you for asking that question. As a commissioner on the Memphis-Shelby County School Board, we need to know this. And honestly, there's been very little interaction between the city of Memphis and the school district. It hasn't been any sort of connection since 2013 when they gave up their charter. So I would absolutely work with the superintendent of our school district to make that happen, because we do have to honor and respect your faith, everyone's faith. And I think as an organization and how you've opened your doors to not just to this event, I've been to events here hosted by Micah. I've been to events here hosted by the MIFA, the Memphis Interfaith Association. That's how we break down barriers When people realize we're not that different, we have our different beliefs and way we go about living our lives, but we're all human beings, we're all citizens of this community. And having more events here and interacting with each other on things that are just Memphis-centric, no matter who you are, that's where we begin to make a difference. So thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I'm gonna go work on it starting tomorrow with the superintendent on Monday, rather. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say those were great questions coming from our community members, and it gives you insight to the issues that are important to the Muslim community here in Memphis. So now it's time to close. We have 30 seconds for a closing statement. And, you know, forgive us, we didn't have time for more community questions, but please come up and meet the candidates and talk to them one-on-one. So for 30 seconds, please give a closing statement, and we'll start with Mr. Young.
Thank you all so much for having us here today. You all have an important decision in front of you. There are 17 candidates that are running in this race, and you all have to figure out which one of us is best poised to take this community to heights that we haven't seen. This is not about going back in the day. This is about creating a future for our young people that we haven't seen. I represent the next generation of leadership. I'm here to take us into the future, and I'd love to have your support. Paul Young, at Young for Memphis on all the social platforms.
Okay, so again, thanks for inviting us today. I am so impressed with the crowd. We've done many of these, and this is probably the largest crowd we've had so far. So thank you so much. And I appreciate your concern about crime. As we talked earlier about crime, some of the major reasons is education, poverty, and unemployment. Most of these individuals sitting here on this stage today currently are either appointed or elected officials. They hadn't done this work yet. It's time for a change. I am that change agent. jwgibsonformayor.com. Please check me out.
Thank you for having us. I'm the only candidate on this stage with 21 years of military experience, 15 years in Nashville, working across party lines to get things done and deliver for Memphis. I've always had an open door to the Muslim community. That would not stop. I've always been accessible. That will not stop. Karen Camper, I'm ready to be your next mayor on all social platforms. You can reach me at ready4camper. Thank you so much for having us.
I've got more experience than anybody up here in any field that they want to talk about. You know me, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, I deliver. A vote for me is a vote for yourself. A support for me is support for yourself. JJB in 2023, send Brown downtown, take back your town. We can do it.
Again, thank you all for having us here today to have these important conversations. And these conversations need to continue. I'm Floyd Bonner. I believe that a safe city is a prosperous city, and I believe that our number one issue here is crime. I have 42 years experience in public safety, and as your next mayor, I want to take you and listen to your concerns and meet with all of you continually. Again, thank you for having us here. My name is Floyd Bonner. Thank you.
I'm Michelle McKissick, and I'm asking you to vote me in as your next mayor. It's time for real change. As a former news anchor and reporter, as someone who served on numerous boards, been board chair of the school board, I have connected with Memphians in every sector, in every way imaginable. I'm asking you to make a change this time for Memphis, for history. Thank you.
Thank you again to all the candidates who came today, and I just want to make it clear, we send the invites in the middle of July to the top 8 candidates who were in the latest poll by that time that had come out. for the mayoral race. And these 6 candidates are the ones who showed up today. So thank you again for taking your time and seeing our community. I hope you all get a chance to connect. Again, election is October 5th, and early voting is from September 15th through the 30th. Again, if you haven't grabbed one of these sheets, and there's smaller ones up front, please look at it and check out what local council district you're in and who's running. Also, with all voting updates in AMAC's website. So again, I'd like to thank all our sponsors and including our organizers, so Brother Ibrahim Abukar and Sheikh Nabil Bayakli and Hala Mustafa and Lamis Hassan and the MIC team, Brother Laith, and I know there was another volunteer who helped set up all the chairs, so you know, it couldn't happen without everyone's support and help in putting it together, and really, you know, all the mosques really came out to co-sponsor this because they understand the importance of our community getting connected with our mayoral candidates. So again, thank you. And Brother Nabil, you're supposed to give a closing statement, if you can come up. And Brother Nabil is the board chair of the American Muslim Advisory Council.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, with a round of applause for all the candidates. I mean, this is really great. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. It's really a thank from the bottom of our heart. And now you got the candidates in front of you. At least these are the top candidates, alhamdulillah. So a lot of the brothers and the sisters were saying, thank you for doing this because we didn't even know who's running and we didn't know what's their agenda, what they, what they're running on. So thank you. Thank you for taking your time. I know it's very busy. This is really the time, the season for all of you. So we really thank you for coming here. We thank MIC actually for giving us and giving the opportunity for this forum. We thank all the community members. We thank IAGM. We thank the Masjid Taqwa, Masjid al-Muslimin, all the masajid, all the mosques that are really here, alhamdulillah. And you can see actually how diverse our community is. And our community is very, very diverse, and we're very proud of this. We proud ourselves with the diversity that's present in our community. So this is what you see for the Muslim community. Again, as a reminder, again, as Sister Sabina said, that the elections is on October 5th, and for the mayor election, there is no October 5th. Did I say October 5th? I did. Okay, October 5th. October 5th, and it is really important because there is no runoff. The latest elections was like somebody who got 40,000 votes won. Let me say it again. The one who got 40,000 votes last time won. And that supposedly that was a landslide, which wasn't really. And knowing that the number of voter turnout in the mid-elections, our numbers can really make a candidate. Let me say this again. Based on the voter turnout, which is about 30% of the registered voters, our numbers, the Muslims that are present really in the city of Memphis and around, we can really make a difference as what candidate win. And you heard from the candidates, you heard from all of them. Alhamdulillah, I think hopefully this is actually will help you make your decision. Memphis, we are facing a lot of problems, and I know I disagree with you, Mr. Gibson. Crime is very high. Policing is an issue, and I know nobody really asked that question, and I don't want to ask that question, but it is an issue. We had some of our brothers actually that got caught with a wrong subpoena, and it was really a major problem. And we thank really Sister Camper for coming and helping us on that. And so we do. I mean, somebody who look at me, somebody who look like Sister Lamis, the very first thing when the police stops them, they say, why are you wearing this? It's hot. And you're in America, you're free to remove it. So these are really major issues which we need our law officers to understand, Sister Sabina, nobody's forcing her to wear the hijab. All the sisters who are wearing the hijab, nobody's forcing them to wear hijab. The police should understand this. Whenever the police stops me, the very first thing, and I keep, I say, it's coming. They say, I've been in Afghanistan. And I would say, subhanAllah, we are here in Memphis. Mashallah, you had a world tour. That's great. What did I do? So these are major issues. These are really major issues for us, the policing, the training of the police, and how the police react when they see one of us, especially those practicing Muslims. So they will be in charge of the police. CJ Davis is under your contract, and they will be in charge of MLGW, and I know nobody mentioned about MLGW, which is fine, alhamdulillah. I know we don't have enough time. So, but it is your choice. This is what makes America so great, is that every vote counts. And let me quote this ayah in the Quran. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition and the situation of people until they change what's in themselves. So if we worry about the crime, we worry about businesses coming. I do sit at LOC, Lemoyne College, and a lot of times actually we have somebody who's coming, for a new position, and they will ask us, how's public transportation in Memphis? We keep our mouth shut. We try to tell them we have Beale Street, and we have Memphis in May. Because we don't talk about public transportation. So there are major, major issues that actually we don't really see it, but it is there. People ask, how's crime? What's the education? What's all of these things? It is our opportunity to vote. We understand that? It's our opportunity to vote. And again, if we want to quote JFK, don't ask what this country can do for you, but ask what you can do for this country. So I would say, don't ask what Memphis can do for you. Ask what you can do for Memphis. We are all in the same boat, and we are suffering from the same thing. So inshallah, that's hopefully, again, I remind everybody that the elections is October 5th. And please, in case you have any question, we got amac.org. You got all the candidates, whether for the mayor candidate or for the the city council and all of that. Inshallah, stay in touch, so this way you can make a better decision. Democracy only works when its citizens are educated. If you are educated on the issues, then you can make a better decision in voting. That's the only time it's going to work. If the citizens are not educated on the issues, they will be led just like a herd. Thank you again for all of you for coming. Thank you for all of you. Thank you for doing all this. Thank you.